welcome to Whispers from the Dark. This is episode 4. My name is Royce, also known as the Duckness on the Topcow message boards. And today we're going to look at quite a few things. I want to talk about issue number 106 of The Darkness, as well as the latest issue of Witchblade. I believe it's number 159, I think. Also, I want to talk about The Darkness comic adaptation of the video game. Wrap up my whole thing on the video games. So first, we're going to talk about The Darkness number 106. So this issue again is written by David Hine, penciled and inked by Jeremy Hahn, and colored by John Ruth. I think that this is another really great issue. A lot of things happen in this issue. Basically, it starts out with the doppelganger, who is the current manifestation of the darkness, going and attacking Balakov, the rival mob boss who's trying to move on Jackie's turf. Well, when he gets there, he tries to attack him, but Aram the Witch King is there, and Aram, initially was supposedly allying himself with Jackie, and he's not this time. He's allying himself with Balakov, which is interesting to me because I personally never really liked the Aram the Witch King character. He's kind of like a Yoda, and I never really thought that Jackie really needed that. But when he gets there, he finds out that Balakov has powers of his own. So I'm really curious to see a little more about what's going on here with him. He's still kind of mysterious, but there's still ways to go. Then we cut to Jackie and his relationship with Jenny and Hope, and it's really interesting because Jenny's starting to get more unstable, and it's really she's starting to crack. And there's this really interesting thing at the end of the issue, this narrative by David Hine, where it talks about how her memories are kind of getting lost, and she doesn't know even how she would have come up with a name like Hope for her daughter. So she's really kind of confused about everything, and it's all because of the tampering that Jackie did. Then we show Hope, and I love that they show like these kid drawings that she made, which I think are really interesting. And then they show her, and she's starting to manifest the darkness, and I think this is really cool. And Jeremy Hahn, if you're listening, I want to see Hope in full darkness armor with little cute kitty and unicorn darklings. Kind of like what you're doing, but times 20, and I just think that's going to be so much fun. From there, they're showing a lot of discontent with Jackie and his guys, because after that, he notices that the doppelganger doesn't come, and he and his guys decide to go out and check it out, and he snaps at the guy that he's suspecting of messing with Jenny. So, then they get to Balakov's place, and Jackie's intending to go in guns blazing just by himself, and he sees that Balakov is definitely more than he seems, for sure. So you can see it, with this issue that a lot of stuff's really going on. I love that David Hine really focuses on the relationships that Jackie has, because it's one of those things that we haven't gotten as much of in the past, in the series very much. A lot of the people he cares about died really, in maybe the first volume, and ever since then, a lot of it was kind of in the past for him, and he was really out on his own even more than before. But now he's got people that he cares about, and people that have an impact on him. And I really like that there's this secondary cast of characters that we're starting to get to know just a little bit. I still don't know what to make of the Aram the Witch King and this new Balakov villain, but I'm really interested to see where it's going to go. For the most part, I dig it. So also, for any of you fans, there's been a release of the trade paperback for this first story arc, which collects numbers 101 to 105. And I think, it'd be great, item to get. It's like $10, and it might be a really good gift idea, especially if you have friends that you think might enjoy a story like this, and you want to get them into it. Pick up the trade. I might get it just because I want to read, all of these little pieces in the back of the book, all in one place. The one that they had in this issue where Jenny was really starting to second guess, her reality. That was really interesting to me, and I have to admit that I normally skip those. I don't even read them half the time, and now I really kind of want to. So I would highly recommend the trade for you guys. The next thing I want to mention is Witchblade 159. It does have a short moment where they mention the darkness. He doesn't really play a big role in any way. But what's cool is that this issue connects to every other issue of the Witchblade that Tim Seeley has done so far. It introduces a new villain, and it is just really good. On this issue, I am sold. I know in my last episode, I was still a little unsure about the series and the way I felt about it, but I wanted to make sure that I told everyone that I'm definitely on board at this point, and that I really enjoyed it. So I definitely think it's worth checking out. I think Diego Bernard is a really good artist, and he's hitting it out of the park. And I don't know, Tim Seeley's just doing a really good job. So check it out. So the next issue we're going to talk about is The Darkness Volume 1, Number 2. This issue was written by Garth Ennis, drawn by Mark Silvestri, and inked by Bat, colored by Steve Furco. Here we go. So The Darkness 2 takes place the morning after the events of The Darkness Number 1. Jackie wakes up outside the bar of that Jenny works in, and he's a little bit disoriented. He doesn't know exactly what happened. It starts to come to him slowly. Meanwhile, the Brotherhood of Darkness and the Angelus are kind of looking at their next moves. They're trying to figure out what they can do to either, get him in their possession or to control him or what have you. Jackie goes to visit his uncle Frankie, who's in the hospital. He doesn't seem to be doing too well, and Jackie's actually really emotionally distraught about this. He thinks of his uncle Frankie almost as a father, and it's really tearing him up that he's hurt. Vinny is watching him, one of Frankie's men, and Jackie starts thinking about the night that Frankie was shot, and that's when he unleashed the darkness for the first time. And he thinks back, and he remembers that one of the henchmen from the Brotherhood said something about him having to go to Liberty something. So he decides that he's going to go to Liberty Island, which we find out is where the headquarters of the Brotherhood of Darkness is. So he's confronted by the Brotherhood of Darkness, and Sonatine tells him basically that he's there to fulfill the role of the darkness. He's supposed to do what they want. He's supposed to make the agenda that they've been working towards happen. They tell him a little history of the organization. They tell him that it was created by one of his ancestors, which was Miguel Estacado, a couple of centuries earlier. He rejects them. He says, "No, I'm not going to work for you. I'm going to work for myself. Screw you guys." And he tears him a new one, and he goes about his business. He goes to a bar and he meets a girl, and he leaves, and Sonatine and the Brotherhood decide that they're going to be going to find him, basically, and try and talk reason to him in a more public place. When they get there, though, of course, Jackie's gone. So they go to the bartender, which is, of course, Jenny, and they ask her where he is, and she says that, I don't know, he left with a girl. When they find out he left with a girl, though, they go crazy, and they have to find him. So that's basically what happens in this issue. So it seems like the main thing in this issue is really to establish what the goals are of the Brotherhood. So as we can see, is they want to control Jackie, and they want to control the darkness, and they want him to do their bidding, basically. They claim that it's because his forefather had started the organization with certain goals in mind, and that's what they plan to carry out with his help. Of course, he doesn't want to do it, so he goes his own way. But it seems like this issue is more or less to get us to understand where they're coming from. So that was kind of nice to at least understand what they're coming from. I thought that the look they had was actually a little hokey at first. They were wearing these crazy robes with these hooded, these pointy hoods. They looked kind of weird, but as you could tell at the end of the the little pictures I was showing there, when they get all into these business suits, they look pretty intimidating, especially Sonatine with his bald head and the golden eyes, the tattoo, and he's really big and muscular, in the dark suit with his henchmen around him. He looks pretty intimidating, so that was pretty cool. My favorite part of the issue, though, actually is more towards the beginning, where Jackie is kind of going to visit his Uncle Frankie in the hospital. It really shows what his personal motivations are, where his loyalties are. It's kind of his softer side. He kind of thinks of Frankie as a father figure, and to see him hurting like that really has an impact on the character. So that was pretty nice to see. All in all, I thought the issue was pretty good. I'm looking forward to rereading the third one. I hope you guys are reading along with me. I wish that you will, comment or something and let me know how you're enjoying the issue as well, so that we can join in more discussion on it. So at this point, I'd like to take our discussion back to the Darkness video game, number 1. I've talked about the video game last time, but before I moved on from it, I really wanted to talk about the comic book adaptation that Topcow did. They did an issue for each one of the levels, and each issue was penciled, and the art was done by different artists. So I'd like to show them to you here. Here we go. So the Darkness levels are all written by Paul Jenkins and David Wohl. David Wohl was one of the original creators of the Darkness, and Paul Jenkins was writing the current series when the video game came out. This was the level 0 issue, and the artwork was done by a guy named Matthias Snig. This is not an artist I'm familiar with at all. He had a very painted look, kind of like Ben Temple-Smith or Ashley Woodish. It's very interesting, but it wasn't what I was used to. Basically, this was the story of how Anthony Estacado, Jackie's dad in the video game, brought the Darkness back to the Estacado bloodline. He was in the middle of World War II. He was a goner. He was about to die, and the Darkness saved him and basically said that he was going to be used in order to bring the Darkness back. And it's an interesting issue, and the artwork was very different than what I was used to. It might have been done by, maybe the guy worked for Starbreeze, I'm not sure. It's very psychological in the end, because it's all about the torment that Anthony is going through. It's an interesting issue. It doesn't happen in the video game. It's kind of before the video game, so it's kind of cool that we get kind of a little bit more of an intro onto what his role in the whole story was, because I was a little wishy-washy about him in the first place anyway. So the first issue in the Level series had 4 covers that I know of. One was done by Starbreeze, one was done by Mark Silvestri. One had been taken, it was an image that was taken from the Family Ties crossover, featuring art by Michael Turner. And the last one was by Stepan Sejic. I'm sure that I always say his name wrong. But anyways, basic story is we get introduced to Jenny, who's getting ready to celebrate Jackie's birthday. She shows how they were friends at the orphanage. Jackie's attacked by Uncle Paulie's men by the church, which is in the video game. The Darkness manifests for the first time, and he defeats all of the other guys. He goes back to Jenny's apartment, and he gets a lead on how to get back at Paulie from his friend Butcher, who's also in the comic books. Anyways, he takes out Dutch Oven Harry, which is going to cost Paulie money, essentially. But Paulie gets back at him by killing Jenny. Jackie then, kills himself. All of this stuff happens in the first, in the video game also. It's done a little bit differently, but it's close enough to make sense in respect from the video game to the comic book. The issue was like the art was by Stepan Sejic, like I said, and everything this guy does is gold. It was a great way to kick off this level series. His artwork is very vivid. It's very cinematic. He really goes all out. So I mean, this is a really good introduction to the story that we're going to be. So issue number 2 takes place after Jackie kills himself and he goes to hell, or at least this limbo that we can call hell, I guess. He meets a soldier who is basically endlessly reenacting a small portion of a battle. They fight together to get to a fort, and Jackie actually, believe it or not, gets his armor. Doesn't show up in the video game at all, but in the comic book, I guess they thought it would be nice to include. So he uses Darklings to storm the base, and once he does that, he's whisked away by the darkness, saying that he passed his test. The story is similar to the video game, does deviate a little bit. Jackie does go to this World War II area, but there's a lot more that also happens. He does not get his armor in the video game, but in the comic book it's fun to see. Honestly, I would have liked to see it in the video game too, but it didn't show up. The art was by Tyler Kirkham. He's a very consistent artist. He does some really good work. I didn't even talk about the covers. I'm sorry. There was one by Sejic, one by Dale Keown, which was really cool, and then there was a third one by Tyler Kirkham, and a fourth one that was just the pencils and inks by Tyler Kirkham. It's the only cover I don't have for this issue, but it was a good issue. The art was good, so not as exciting as the regular series for me, but it was all right. The third issue, level 3, has 3 covers. The first one is really exciting for me. I really love this cover. It's by an artist named Andy Brace. I have no idea who he is. I really don't know much about him. I will include a link to his DeviantArt below. The other covers, as in this issue, Jackie attacks Polly and Schroet at a club, but they escape. They're kind of dumbfounded that he came back from and now dead, does but anyway, work doing. He later gets a note from Schroet to meet to meet in a church or something, and at that point he's ambushed. He escapes by basically blowing himself up along with Schroet as well. And that's where the issue ends, with him going back to hell, basically. The art was really good. Eric is a really talented artist. I've known him for a really long time. The story was okay, and it also does kind of deviate from the video game even more. I thought it was really odd that they're making this comic to be an adaptation of the video game, but it's so different. But at the same time, at least that makes it fun, so that's good. The fourth issue has 2 covers. The first is by Stepan Sejic, and the other one is by Dale Keown. The art for this issue is from Patrick Blaine. And in this issue, Jackie returns to hell, and he basically has this all-out battle before going to a fortress that belongs to the darkness entity. While he's there, he basically kills the darkness, which means he takes over as the darkness, which is very different from the video game. Basically, this issue, is very different from the video game. But it's all right. And then after that, he's returned again to the land of the living. Patrick Blaine's art is extremely detailed. I think he does a pretty good job, but I do think that the story does, kind of suffer a little bit. So that's just my opinion. The last issue has 2 covers. The first one is by Dale Keown, and the other one is by Mike Choi, who also does the interiors. In this issue, Jackie goes after Paulie. He chases him to his hideout and basically, completes the end. He goes, he takes him out. Um, I thought it was just okay. It was similar to the video game, but in the end, the series just really didn't do a whole lot for me. There was some great art. I liked the idea that we could see different renditions of the darkness from different artists in each issue. The Mike Choi cover on this issue is one of my favorite ones. But the story just wasn't as good. It just didn't engage me at all. It didn't interest me at all. In the video game, it came off a lot better. But in the comic book, the original, the actual ongoing series, it's much, much better. I would feel bad for people to read this series as an intro to the comic book because I think the comic book is so much better. But hopefully they played the game too, and that got them into the comic book. So I'm really glad that I was able to go ahead and complete all the things I wanted to show you with the First Darkness video game. I know I didn't like these last comic books as much as, I like some of the other stuff. But, if I was going to tell you I love everything even though I don't, then you wouldn't believe me all that well. So I'm going to tell you what I really think. If I loved it, I'll tell you I loved it. And if I didn't, I'll tell you I didn't. I thought that there were good things about the comic books, but in the end, they did leave me a little wanting. So, but I do have one thing that I'd like to show you coming up now in my original art of the day that does tie into these comic books. So here we go. This artwork is from Patrick Blaine, and Patrick Blaine was the artist on issue number 4 of this Darkness Levels series. I don't know what other Topcow work he's actually published. I don't think he really has published anything with them. But I met Patrick when I was an intern at Topcow, which was a long, long time ago. And, he was one of those guys that I got to know over there, and he was always really cool. But one of the coolest memories I have with him was I'd sit with him and I would watch him draw and I would talk to him and ask him questions and he would tell me about it. And then he'd get his little one-on-one sessions with Mark Silvestri. So I got to basically be a fly on the wall and listen to Mark Silvestri critique his artwork and give him pointers. And that was really cool. Mark Silvestri created the Darkness, which is my favorite character. And to watch him work with some other talents to cultivate, the work that they do and to pass on his knowledge was really, really interesting. So I really, it's one of those standout memories I have from the studio, and I'm really thankful that I had a chance to be there for that portion of time. Patrick has been a guy that I've always, kind of gone to at least say hey to at a convention since then. I haven't seen him quite as often, but I did contact him recently on Facebook and asked him to do me a Darkness commission, and this is what he did. So, he did a great job. Look at all that detail. I love the Darklings in the back. Oh, man. That's the thing that I always really loved about Patrick's work is he does this super detail work, and I really, even from seeing his old work, which I thought was amazing then, I could see, the growth that he's gotten now. He's like on this whole other level, and I'm really impressed. And, if you're going to check out this video, Patrick, thank you again for doing such a really cool piece for me. I'll link everybody to a website for him as well. So please be sure to check him out, and if you want a commission, he does do commissions and his rates are very reasonable, and you should definitely check him out. So yeah. So now it's time for one of my favorite parts of this show, which is the Q&A with the people who are checking out the videos and interacting with me. First one I have is from LTIL1. He asked me if I ever actually wrote in to Topcow to, have one of my letters published or anything, and the answer to that is yes and no. I was always very vocal on the message boards, and occasionally we would get artists or writers from Topcow on the message board, so they would interact with me that way. and I was too lazy to send snail mail. So since that seemed to work, I did that. I did, however, meet a lot of people in person. I think the first time I went, I met Mark Silvestri, and Bat and Furco, and I didn't know who any of them were. And I knew who they were, but I didn't have a chance to really talk to them. But I did go to other signings after that. I remember getting to hang out with Ku Cha and Steve Furco and Eric Bazaldua. I live in the Los Angeles area, which is where Topcow is. So luckily there are signings occasionally where I can get to know them. And then I got to meet Vince Hernandez, who was one of the office managers at Topcow, and I was able to actually go into the studio. I was able to, finagle my way in to check the place out and got my foot in the door. And after that, I was able to basically go over there and hound people as much as I wanted. So I really got to know them that way. I did have one letter I know of published, and that was not for the Darkness. It was actually for Obergeist. I don't remember the name of the writer off the top of my head. I'd have to check. But I really liked it, and so I think I wrote on the message boards, and they ended up printing my note from the message boards, and he was really cool about it too. He wrote to me back, and he said he was going to be at a signing or at the convention, and he said he would sign my book. And then when I went to get him to sign my book, he made me sign a book for him, which was very interesting. I thought that was a lot of fun. So that's pretty much the extent of me actually writing in. Ron Mars and Phil Hester had this thing on their message boards where they were there all the time, and you could send questions to them on the message boards, and they were really good about answering them. So, and these days, they're not as into the message boards, but you could find almost any, artist or writer that you really want to talk to on Facebook or Twitter, and a lot of them are really cool people and will write back to you. A couple of them I've had that don't, but for the most part they do. The next question I have was from Warren Estacado Birch from Facebook. He started tuning into my show. He also started a Facebook fan page for Topcow fans or Darkness fans. He was telling me that he's looking for a couple of rare variants. If any of you are, have access to some of these. One that he wanted was some sort of error cover for number 11. I'm totally unfamiliar with this cover, so if any of you have any information on it, I'd really love to see it. And the other one is a museum edition. I don't know if they had one for number 11. I know I've seen a couple of random ones. Actually, yeah, I do remember the one for number 11. I personally don't have any museum editions. They're a little bit too expensive for me. But they're really cool looking, and if you can't afford them, they're really cool to get. They are very rare, so if anyone has any that they want to sell, if you let me know, I'll forward the information to him, or I'll put a link below for his website. Finally, because of my last episode, which had the artist Cause Lazarus, who I thought his last name was French or something, I did find his last name though, and you can find a link to his page on my last video in the description. He wanted to know about foreign editions of some of the comic books. So I have a couple, not very many, but I'm going to show them for him. The first one I have is a hardcover, and I actually got this at Topcow when I was interning there. They just gave it to me. It's got the cover for number 0 on it, and I can only assume that it's got, like Darkness 0, or, I guess I can open it up. I haven't really opened it since I probably put it away. It's just kind of a collectible. Here's the back. It's really nice. It's got, looks like issue number 4. Yeah, it's just issue number 4 through 6. And I don't know what language this is in. It looks like it could be, I don't know, German or something. I have no idea really. There's a thing here It says from the Splitter team in there, so I don't know, maybe there was some extra people who used to work on these for Topcow. I have a couple other issues, but I mean they're all regular issues with covers that were reused from the regular series. So this is the cover for issue number 6 from the regular series, but here it says number 2, and then number 6, that was from Joe Benitez days. I think these are all from the same country, because I'll have this little F symbol for the money right there. I'm not sure which one it is, somewhere in Europe. But these are all foreign editions. I don't even remember where I got these, to be honest. But one of them, which is this next one, is the only one I have that is a cover that is unique to the foreign editions. This is a cover that does not show up in the States. So this is, I think, more what you're looking for, Richard. I know there are some more like this where there are different versions, but I don't know where they are, how to find them. I think that one thing that would be really great for Topcow to do would be some sort of cover gallery book that includes foreign editions like that. Because I mean, this is really cool. I mean, it's not like the other art that we have, but I like that. I like that it's different and it's unique. So, anyways. This has turned into a long video. I'm sorry. It's because I'm trying to fit so much in once I get through all these video games. I think they'll be a little bit shorter. Next time I plan to talk about The Darkness Volume 1, Number 3, of course. And we're going to finally talk about The Darkness video game number 2. And I'm going to show you guys all the cool swag I have from 2K games, pertaining to Darkness 2. So that's it for me. I hope all of you keep reading Darkness, and that's it. Hope you write in. Let me know what you like, what you don't like, and what you'd like to see. So talk to you soon. Bye. Darkness signing out. Stay dark.